everyone. It's Anthony Bandiero here, attorney and senior legal instructor for Blue Gold Law Enforcement Training. But the roadside chat. Let's talk about a question from an officer in Florida. He said, all right, so deputies attempted to serve an after-hours court-ordered ex parte Baker Act to a subject who resides in the city west coast of Florida. All right, so Baker Act is your civil commitment act in Florida, right? This is where a judge has issued ex parte, means that the subject here, the guy who is going to be committed, was not part of the deliberations here. He's going to have his time in court after the seizure of him, the commitment. All right. And the Baker Act is that there's a mental issue causing him to be an immediate harm to himself or others. Deputies knocked and announced themselves upon arrival, and the subject immediately began yelling, "Get the fuck out of here." When deputies continued to speak to him through the door, he yelled, "Fuck this," right? This is the quotes. "I'm grabbing my gun." He was observed grabbing a black metallic object from the table and walked aggressively toward the door while continuing to yell threats towards deputies. He could be heard racking a firearm behind the door, and he refused all requests to exit the apartment peacefully. He threatened to shoot any person who entered his residence, and also threatened to fire 360 through the entire hallway. Fire 360. He briefly, maybe I'm missing the gun analogy here, but he did briefly open his door and he pointed a black cell phone outside and while he was recording. Deputies in the local police department, responded, provided assistance. They end up disengaging this person, and the ex parte order remains unserved. He was diagnosed, I guess, in this ex parte hearing. He was diagnosed with schizophrenia, bipolar. He's on the autism spectrum. He's, according to his family, he's not taking his meds. He has a history of homicidal ideations and referencing firearms while making threats to statements to others. At the end of the day, could the police force entry into this home to take him in custody? All right. So in order to enter a home, right, you need CREW, right? CREW is the acronym here at Blue to Gold. It is consent. It is a recognized exception, or it's a warrant. Those are the three ways you enter homes. Here, you obviously do not have consent, and I'm going to do bookends, and you do not have a warrant. The ex parte order to civilly commit him under the Baker Act in Florida is not a search warrant. It's also not an arrest warrant. In other words, when the judge issued that order, it is not also a contemplation of giving the police the approval to enter the person's home and take him into custody, right? And if I'm wrong in that, you tell me why I'm wrong and maybe give me an example of how you write these orders. But the orders that I see for civil commitments, they're not written in that sense. The order is simply he needs to be committed for evaluation. So that does not contemplate a warrantless entry into the home. It presumes you have lawful access to this person. Okay. Next, recognized exceptions. All recognized exceptions dealing with homes are based on some form of exigency, emergency, and urgency. Do we have that here? Yes, we do. Okay. The case is Michigan versus Thomas. That's really a good starting point. The citation is 558 US 45 2009. In essence, police get called to a disturbance at a home about Fisher going crazy. That's a quote, right? He's throwing stuff around the house. He's in some kind of, medical emergency. They go into the house and he has like a cut on his hand. I guess he's like maybe like suicidal and so forth. And, he was charged. He basically went after the police officer. He assaulted a police officer when the cops came in. He was charged with assault with a dangerous weapon and possession of a firearm during the commission of a felony. And he said, "You know what? When you entered my home, you violated my rights." And the U.S. Supreme Court said, "Time out, Fisher." These cops had exigency, right? The yelling, the screaming, he's going crazy. I think there was even like a windshield to a truck that was like damaged by him. And do we have that kind of exigency here? We have a guy who allegedly is racking a firearm and going to shoot up everybody in the hallway. it's one thing to be peaceful and be like, hey, look, don't come into my house. It's another thing to start threatening police officers. Is that also an indicator that he's in current mental crisis? Yes. Not only do you see the evidence of a mental crisis, do you also have a judge who has independently, based on the evidence that the judge had, also said there is evidence under state law to hold him against his will to get him evaluated. Yes, right? Now, we do have a problem here, though. And the problem is, of course, tactics. If this was me, right, based on the very limited facts that I have here, I don't have the whole story. Nobody ever tells Anthony everything. They just give me a paragraph or two and just say, Anthony, based on this information, what do you think? But if we have a guy who's currently in a mental crisis, with that judge's order, racking the slide of a gun, living in an apartment, right? He's not in the boonies left by himself. Would I pack up my toys and go home? Probably not. Would I also push my way into that house? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I'm going to barricade him. Now, we also have, people nearby and apartment buildings and so forth, but I think we're going to have to get the SWAT team out here, and we're going to have to do it the slow way, right? Slow, methodical, right way, tactics, and so forth, so that everybody lives, including our subject in this situation. We don't want to barge our way into that apartment and cause a shooting that could have been avoided with the SWAT team doing it slow and methodical, right? In other words, smoke him out and so forth and get him to surrender. But I do believe that, generally speaking, police departments have a little bit more of a moral obligation to probably get this guy in custody, because if we leave there and he ends up shooting a neighbor, then it's going to obviously cause some avoidable litigation for us when we had reason to believe that he was currently a danger to himself or others. So, you have a tough job, and nobody said it was easy, right? But in this case, I think that at the end of the day, walking away, in my view, and I'm not giving you legal advice because I'm not your lawyer, okay? But based on what I see here, I think the better option would be for society and for him would to probably get him the help he needs, and go from there. All right. I hope this helps. My job is to help you get it right every single time, to start thinking about these search and seizure issues. If you like what I'm doing here, like, subscribe, share with your friends. That's all I ask. That's not much of an ask. Until next time, my friends, you stay safe.